Hi, everybody. Welcome to Winsight Live. The day the industry has been waiting for many years has come this morning. Amazon Fresh store in Woodland Hills, California is open for select customers. This is a monumentous event in the industry, not because of the one store, of course, but what Amazon represents, a incredibly rich company with a long horizon, the ability to invest in stores, a 100 million plus loyalty program coming in to make a physical store where prices are apparently going to be pretty sharp, prepared foods, new technologies. It's interesting and it's coming at a moment where the industry is very prepared for this, in part because of Whole Foods and Amazon acquisition back in 2017. We've seen hundreds of millions of dollars invested in omni-channel in supermarkets, and right at this moment that the stores open, they're riding historically great results. It's a really fascinating time to be in our business.
Yeah, and John, just to build on that, so the Amazon Fresh store is near me in Southern California, Woodland Hills. I've already sent out all the calls, all the feelers to get in there before it opens. The other interesting thing is, let's not forget this store has actually been operational as a dark store for delivery for a few months already. So unlike your typical grand opening that you've got all the bugs that you have to work out, they've probably worked those out. So they're going to be able to move quickly. Also, I think I've mentioned this before. I know one of the contractors who have been working on that building for a while, and he said that they've really reconfigured over the past few months, getting rid of a lot of the self-service bars. There will be a lot of prepared food, as you mentioned. However, it will not be self-service prepared food. It'll be prepared food that so as soon as I get in there, I'm going to have pictures, I'm going to have video, and we're going to share it with the world, hopefully first, because I'm physically the closest. And also, what I think is so important is not only here on Winsight Live, but also on Winsight Grocery Business, to be able to look for stories that other people don't have, that our insights are really quite different than I think other ones that are out there that are just rewriting press releases. And Jen has one of those also about Amazon, that there's yet another new banner. So we've got Amazon Fresh, we've got Amazon Go, and now, Jen, we have Amazon.
Well, it's Ideal Market. And it's really interesting to see how it seems strategic that they are not just going with a one size fits all as they roll out these new stores. And so you're closest to Woodland Hills. I'm I'm in Denver and closest to the Capitol Hill neighborhood, where in 2017, Whole Foods closed a store in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. And they said it was because they were going to focus their attention on the flagship store that they opened in Union Station downtown. They're actually, that location was actually closest to the Cherry Creek store, which is a beautiful Whole Foods and in a very Tony neighborhood in Denver. So the neighborhood, was really, I've talked to a number of people in the Capitol Hill neighborhood, and when they heard that their beloved Whole Foods was returning, they were super excited. And then earlier this week, a sign is erected that says Ideal Market, where they were expecting this Whole Foods to reopen. So there was a lot of questions, what does this mean? And Ideal Market is a store that opened in Boulder in like the late 1950s. And there's only one location, and it was part of the Whole Foods Wild Oats acquisition a number of years ago.
Yep.
And it's just that one standalone store, but they've decided to, it's got that kind of, the sign has a very retro, mid-century modern kind of a feel to it. And I wonder if, the Capitol Hill neighborhood is very different from Cherry Creek. It's very different from downtown. It's more of a, lots of apartment buildings, very, historic, hipster, kind of very urban vibe. And I wonder if this is a very strategic move to open this Ideal Market, which the one in Boulder has all, Whole Foods branded product, but the look and feel from the exterior is something very different than the traditional Whole Foods.
Well, what you point out is interesting about the sign, because if you look at the new Rayleigh's ONE store, what they actually did is on the store itself, they've changed the color of the Rayleigh's. They've kept the logo the same, the color green instead of the color red, but they also moved right in front of the store the original Rayleigh sign, talking about retro, that that was put up 50, 60, 70 years ago. I'm going to throw out something to the group, and I'd love everybody's idea. If I think about Whole Foods and the strategies, John, that you and Jen have just talked about, we saw as soon as Amazon took over Whole Foods, them kibosh the 365 store concept. For a lot of reasons. It was lower priced. A lot of reasons. I'm wondering, and I know this is going to be controversial. I'm wondering, once Amazon Fresh gets their act together and really starts rolling out, do we ever anticipate a time where Amazon is going to retire the Whole Foods brand of stores, not the Whole Foods brand of products or the 365 brand of products, but for all these 500 plus stores to become Amazon Fresh? Why not?
I would,
Because they hit different customer segments, and Whole Foods has obviously got great equity for natural organic food. It's got a nice upscale profile. I know people think that their prices are too high, and they've got a reputation for that. But I mean, it would seem to me that if you could operate an upscale chain for the people who want that kind of thing, and an affordable chain that's built around convenience and omni-channel, like the this Amazon Fresh chain, why not run them both and have them help one another out?
yeah, and I also think that there's, with in the age of personalization, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I sort of feel like the ideal market is like that's showing that they get the market. And Amazon Go, I mean, first of all, that space is too big for an Amazon Go,
Mhm.
but that Amazon Go is not going to fly there. I don't even, maybe in downtown Denver when all the businesses are reopened, but it's not going to work the way it would in a San Francisco. So an ideal market strikes me as like maybe exactly what that neighborhood needs. And so I don't know why they would, just create this cookie cutter, let's get rid of Whole Foods. And, I feel like they're trying to build brand equity in personalized stores for the markets that they're entering.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a great point.
baby
And
boomer.
yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, as a baby boomer, I prefer the Whole Foods label because that's what I relate to. And I've been in Amazon Go and I'm an Amazon customer, but I don't associate them with groceries.
Just to echo what everyone's saying here, and especially what John said, um, even though Whole Foods is a subsidiary of Amazon, they still serve two different types of people for the most part. You have those customers who love the Whole Foods brand, but maybe aren't as associated with Amazon and aren't as interested in going that Amazon Fresh route. So just to echo everything there.
As we're seeing, though, the landscape changing, and here in Southern California, we've got Erewhon with 5 stores. So one of the latest stores is a block and a half away from Whole Foods, and Erewhon makes the pricing at Whole Foods look like a dollar store. Just to give you, some idea. In talking to Tony Antaki, who's the CEO and owner of Erewhon, what he has reported is that the day that they opened, Whole Foods traffic and sales decreased by about 20%. So, is it possible that we're going to see these smaller chains go after the Whole Foods customer and really segregate it so that, maybe Whole Foods is here and the Kroger customers here, and Safeway and Albertsons and so on. And then we've got these other smaller chains like Erewhon that are up here.
Yeah.
And Whole Foods finds itself in a marketplace that maybe those people, especially as we're heading into a recession, are not going to want to pay those prices, so they're going to go to either Albertsons or they're going to go to Amazon Fresh.
It's a good point. We're going to see how this goes. I mean, right now, everybody who sells food in America in a supermarket is doing pretty well. And it's really, at this point, it's a question of degrees. As for Amazon, look, they've got, one store that's open to select people. So in order to get to the level of the companies that have sort of been preparing for them all this time, the Krogers, the Albertsons, the Ahold Delhaize, and they need about 2,000 more of these events. So it'll be years in coming. Again, I mentioned earlier, they've got a very long-term look. As Jen pointed out, they're a creative company that will try things. And I think we're going to see some of this play out in grocery. Again, fascinating time to be covering this industry.
So what we have seen also is, as we mentioned before, with prepared food, a lot of changes at grocery. Let's switch to prepared food, both in the C-store channel and in the restaurant channel. And Pat, you wrote a great column about creativity that's emerging from chain restaurants during the pandemic. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of the R&D was put on pause because people just weren't in their test kitchens and they weren't creating new things. Now, there was some new items in the pipeline from before that were released in May and June. But now that the chefs are back in their test kitchens, they're really ramping up the production of new items. And so in the last week alone, we saw a lot of new items, and they were just more creative, like
what?
Sweet Green paired up with local bakeries in all their key markets and is creating a focaccia, which goes with their bowls and salads, because they're really trying to appeal to more of the dinner crowd. A few months ago, they also introduced plates, which are more like a dinner item, and it's geared to those families who were sheltering at home. But they're continuing that because they're not getting the lunch business. So this focaccia that has a local spin, which is Sweet Green's thing, is really, appealing, is sort of paired with that. And then, of course, we have some of more pumpkin spice latte extensions. Everybody is jumping on.
Oh.
I mean, not just the drinks, but we see like chia pudding and bowls and everything pumpkin spice. And that's 4 new things from Nectar Juice Bar that are just all pumpkin spice themed. So there's, more seasonal and more, local connections now happening. It's all very interesting.
Can you imagine if there's a report from FAR or any of the other allergy groups that says that pumpkin is now one of the leading allergens that people have? That whole industry shuts down. Brett, before I let you talk about what's going on in C-store food service, that's very, very exciting and very, very important. Dave Foreman wrote on our Facebook page, if your product is killing it on Amazon, you will not get on the shelves at Whole Foods markets. Excellent point to make. Brett, what's going on with Wawa?
So Wawa is testing a new dinner menu at hundreds of its stores in its operating areas. Wawa is in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and Florida. It's the 10th largest convenience store chain by store count in the United States. And those who live on the East Coast, it's commonly known that the two big chains, Wawa and Sheetz, have really good food. I've personally never been to either, being from Chicago and living here.
What? I grew up at Wawa. I went to undergraduate at Drexel in Philadelphia, and Wawa, those days, Wawa was killing it when it came to food service, and that's where we would go.
And
I'm a former Delawarean. They have phenomenal following among the people who shop there too.
Yeah, they have cult-like followings for sure. Yes. And so Wawa is testing this new dinner menu, and it has some really intriguing items. I mean, they're debuting a new burger with Angus beef, but then they also have lots of different pastas, like fettuccine pasta with bolognese sauce, and then they have braised chicken, pork roast, rotisserie chicken, lots of really cool stuff. And they actually also debuted kids meals too, which is very exciting. I know for a while customers have wanted to see more kids meals in the C-store space. So lots of innovation. And I know, Phil, we've talked about this before. You have, correct me if I'm wrong, you haven't always been a believer in C-store food service. So, I feel like we've talked about many times that there still is that customer perception that food in gas stations and C-stores is still subpar. And so Wawa is an example of C-stores really trying to be on par with quick service restaurants. And so this new menu definitely encapsulates that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Wawa and Sheets, phenomenal job on food service. Most of the others, not so much. They're still selling green hot dogs on roller grills that have been there for hours and hours and hours, and just can't get past it. So, th- Jen, what one of the things that I read that you wrote that had me, scratching my head a little bit, talks about an interview that you've had with Kurt Jetta, who has basically said and done a survey that online grocery is not our future.
Right. It is surprising. Kurt is the founder of Tabs Analytics, and they do this survey every August. So it was very timely this year because it's really looking at COVID results. And they've been doing this survey since 2013, so for a number of years now. And he said, so John had interviewed him before the pandemic earlier this year. And he was like, nope, online grocery is not the future. So I talked with him and said, well, but what about now? Have you changed your mind with all of the, the surging online ordering and delivery? And he's like, now more than ever, I believe this. And he's saying it's economically unsustainable in its current form. And he did want to emphasize that. So I guess he's leaving the door open that, it might change. But Tabs Analytics tracks 15 what they call bellwether categories. So it's like cookies, water, ice cream, frozen pizza. And they look at these 15 categories and purchasing frequency and habits around this each year. And so what's, the survey found was that, first of all, Walmart has edged up as number one over Amazon in terms of the online grocery space by, not huge percentage, but he said, Walmart has about 30% of that market of transactions, online grocery transactions, and Amazon has 27%. But then he also looked at, his data said that, says that the high frequency users, like 6 times or more a year for online grocery delivery and curbside pickup, had declined since 2019. So interesting.
I'm still scratching my head because I would agree with this statement that it's got to change because nobody's making money in delivery. But if I look at all the robotics that are being put together, back to the Amazon Fresh store in the back room, I look at the whole concept of what online grocery could mean with discovery of products, with search, whether it's by health attribute, whether it's about the type of diet you want to really cut down, the amount of time you have to spend in a store. As I've said before, what's absurd is I have 20 items on my shopping list and I have to walk past 40,000 items to get those 20, to make the store a hybrid that's actually a lot more interesting to shop in, number one, and number two, a lot easier to shop in. And if we can move to curbside pickup, which is what obviously Albertsons and Walmart is pushing for, these retailers can make money on this. And you mentioned 15 categories, and of those 15 categories, maybe that's not what people are buying online. Obviously, we've seen a lot of products being bought online. And, you mentioned one of the categories is pizza. And right now we've got a frozen pizza shortage. There isn't enough frozen pizza to go around to fill those frozen food cases for a bunch of reasons. Number one, is people are hoarding frozen pizza because it has an extraordinary shelf life. They're still nervous about what they are going to be consuming in the future. If there's going to be food on the shelves, as we hear more cases going up. And also for those meat lovers, like pepperoni or sausage on their pizza. There's a huge shortage of pepperoni and sausages too, because of the meatpacking plants are still 20 to 30 to 40% production. They're not at full production. So if you're looking for a frozen pepperoni pizza with sausage and meatballs on it, forget it. You're not going to find
Right.
it.
Well, just a couple.
Yeah, I mean, given Kurt's point of view are provocative and often misunderstood. To a certain degree, the grocers have to be where the growth is, and that is in digital and these kinds of things. That's putting them there. But I think his point is well taken that it's a money-losing proposition for now. And again, it's the more you sell, the more you lose, because with every order comes its own set of costs, and that is a problem that the other grocers have. Finally, he'll compare it to the results of a brick and mortar company like Publix, which is just doing phenomenal business without necessarily a huge investment in digital. They're really kind of outsourcing most of that to the Instacarts out there.
Right, and he still believes in the in-store experience. That people. Yeah. And he made the point that even now more than ever, when there's no place else to go for a lot of people, that the grocery store is like that's an experience, that's an outing, and that people actually like picking out their own groceries. But he also said that this, one of the challenges of online delivery is, he said it's a very self-destructive model to have this pressure for next day and same day delivery, because it's just, the cost of that, and things come in multiple shipments. And he said that his household is extremely heavy users of online delivery. And he's like, but I didn't need that WD-40 that I ordered like next day. I could have waited a week for that, but what did that cost to send it to me to arrive on my doorstep the next day,
Yeah, but Amazon has figured that out. I mean, Amazon is making a lot of money. Jeff Bezos, I think the report when they talked about Amazon Fresh today or yesterday increased his value by like $12 billion in one day. Amazon Fresh can deliver, or Amazon can deliver in 2 hours or the next day. Can a WD-40 or whatever else.
But
so
the competitors don't have a AWS, profit machine that is sort of helping them sort of make the investment in order to offer something like that. And that, again, that's the big advantage going in. 100 million plus people who pay to belong to Amazon already. And you're going to throw a store out there and you're like, well, if I can get better prices and better service, shopping my groceries through a company that I'm already paying things for, it's potentially a ornery competitor in the supermarket industry.
Absolutely. So Jen, why don't you wrap us up with some good news?
So, we're already dealing with so much, and now we've got multiple natural disasters, the Hurricane Laura and the wildfires in Northern California. And so there are two grocers who are really stepping up. H-E-B has, a page on its website devoted to Hurricane Laura, and they're updating that regularly. And, they were kind of ahead of the COVID-19 crisis because of their emergency preparedness program that they already had in place dealing with these hurricanes year after year. So they're, working with nonprofits to get food, water, et cetera, to people in need. And they're updating the public on, what's going on. They've got 7 stores that are closed right now in the Houston area, 2 stores that are opening later than they normally would. And they're going to continue to communicate with their customers and the community on that. And then Save Mart in Northern California, all the Save Mart companies have started a roundup fund to help, communities who've been obliterated by the wildfires in Northern California, which have already burned 1.25 million acres. So all the banners across the Save Mart companies are offering this, and obviously shoppers can offer to donate more to relief funds through the American Red Cross.
Yeah, these catastrophes are horrible, but there is one note that I read yesterday on Hurricane Laura, which was interesting to me because the grounds have been so dry and because of climate change and so on. Hurricane Laura might actually be of help to hire the production for the soybean crops this year that have just been devastated and dying out. So with every disaster, hopefully there's a little learning that we can have and a little good news. So thanks today for everybody joining us. Thanks, Dave Foreman, for your comments. They're always great. Like to see the rest of you guys add your comments as well. We'll be checking them throughout the week. Again, past episodes are on Winsight Grocery Business, Restaurant Business, CSP, and supermarketguru.com. I hope you'll visit them, and I hope you'll have a great weekend. Be with us on Tuesday at 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 Pacific time. And you know what I'm going to say? We should all say it together. 1, 2, 3. Wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask.